Hi everyone, it's Sandra, and we are going to check in on my granddaughter Micah's banana burrito in my tumbleweed worm cafe today. If I will just bring you up to speed, what happened last time is I was looking at, the level dropping because a lot of this bedding was coconut coir back in the day, about 2 months ago when we left Victoria. And I'm looking for the coconut coir. A sign of it being processed is for it to start depressing in volume. Now I'm going to be bulking the bedding up considerably today, so perhaps that's not going to be a valid measure going forward. You see, I've also got a lot of natural bedding in here already. And there's a cocoon. There is things happening in here, but I want to make sure that the coconut coir is fully processed. Let's go take a look at the banana burrito and see how it was doing. I topped it up with some of my beautiful semi-finished compost from Victoria. That would have given it a kickstart. Moisture feels good. Worms are in the area. That's good. Now, banana peels, especially if you don't food process them, there's a bit of eat my shorts actually. If you don't food process them up into little bits, banana peels can take a long time. So there's the burrito. Micah, I'll show her this video on replay. There's your burrito, sweetie. Look at the worms in it. And they're like, oh, it's now light out. So they've eaten out the toilet roll holder from the outside, and there, like I said, are the banana peels, and look at the worms in the burrito, Micah. So this is just a fun game that you can play. Obviously, banana peels have a little bit of banana on the inside of them, and then the peels themselves are going to take longer. But this was just a fun thing to do with bananas, and look, the worms seem to have had a good time with it. It's not a great baiting food because, once they've licked off that inside banana, they are going to, like I said, they're going to take a longer time for the peels themselves. I did give some other carrot peels and some cilantro stems in this area, so I expect them to be long gone. This is a piece of wood with a worm in it. Wood carries microbes on the surface, and even though you need the bin critters, like the pill bugs and everything to chew up wood, wood chips actually contain a lot of goodness for worms on the outside. Certainly they can lick the wood chips as the microbes and the bin critters start depositing poop and microbes along the surface of the wood chips. They don't actually eat the wood chips themselves, of course, but they can eat what's growing on it. Okay, so lots of that's a little stem. All right, so this is looking good. The moisture is excellent. It's one thing about coconut coir is it does retain the moisture. After 2 weeks, there is no sign of food left in this area. So, and I can see that, the compost that I've been adding, it's not going to process down by the time I will harvest this bin. These wood chips and everything will need to be run through a few cycles. Okay, so let's take our banana and some of these other chunkier food bits. That's an avocado peel. Let's go to a totally new corner. I haven't fed over here. Now, I was going to talk a bit about bedding diversity today. Like I said in my last video, coconut coir going into a bin essentially doesn't carry with it a microbe signature. It picks up, from what you surround it with, like the food scraps and everything. And so it's a slower start, and other types of bedding that are basically sterile. I've got some packing paper going in today. The packing paper itself has no inherent microbes that are attached to it. Now, it can soak up moisture, and that moisture can carry bacteria and fungi, and it will become inoculated. But especially because I started ITSY, this level is called, with a lot of coconut coir, probably about 30 or 40% coconut coir, I want to make sure that I'm adding a lot of bedding diversity. Now food scraps, and here's an avocado peel or avocado pit. Oh, a little bit of a chip out of it. Food scraps, like, this is an avocado peel and an avocado pit. They obviously are going to carry with them a microbial mix that will add to the richness of this for the worms. But I'm going to also add some other diversity to make sure that this bin continues to thrive. And you can see there's 2 cocoons there side by side, 2 different sizes. I would bet that this is from my Vancouver Island worms, Arctiostrotus vancouverensis, and that's a red wiggler cocoon. Interesting. All right, so let's put some natural bedding down there. Now I noticed on Gardening with Barchuckin's Worms with Rick channel, and I'll put the link in the description, that when he has a natural bedding bin, and somebody asked, well, don't you get bin critters when you add natural bedding? Here's a fig leaf from my fig tree, a maple leaf from the maple trees across the road. Well, yeah, there is a risk of getting bin critters when you put natural bedding in. There could be eggs deposited on these leaves. These leaves, it's August. These leaves are falling prematurely because our summer drought conditions. So they are unlikely to have eggs on them still. It's a chance. Then those bin critters are likely to be the isopods that you actually want in a bin. Those little chewing critters I talked about that are necessary to digest the more chunkier bits of your bedding, quite frankly, like this leaf stem. Worms can't eat that, and microbes would take a long time to get through that. Bin critters is what you need. Crunch. All right, so yes, we have inherited a neighborhood with lots of great trees, so my bins are going to get leaves. Now, if you are still a little bit unsure about adding leaves because you've got an indoor bin, guess what I did? I went through and I pruned, no, I didn't prune, I picked up fuchsia flowers that were just falling naturally from my fuchsia plants. Look at that for diversity. These are still moist. They were picked up just today and yesterday. They are not going to have bugs on them. These are from my plant containers. So I'm adding a lot of beautiful natural bedding here. Now remember that the carbon-nitrogen ratio is not an either or. Something is not a carbon or a nitrogen or a brown or a green. It's a continuum. And so all organic matter contains both carbon and nitrogen. It's just the ratio. And yes, a living flower is going to have less carbon and therefore a higher nitrogen component than a crispy leaf. But quite frankly, the worms need a mix. And they, the balance, they say, want to start your bin, 25 to 1 sort of thing, 30 to 1. But, once your bin is mature like this and up and running, the worms will take care of that balance. I am not going to be swinging this bin too far to the nitrogen end of it by including some moist flowers. These are not as available to the worms as food scraps, because not only are these flowers still alive, actually, they just fell off. This one just fell off today. So there are living cells still in this flower. So that's going to resist a little bit. And they're also thicker, so like a raw food scrap. This is going to take longer. So there's going to be a variety of processing speeds. The other thing about putting living foods in it, whether it be food scraps or these flowers, is you're getting living enzymes. These cells have living materials in them, chemicals that can then add to the diversity of your bin. And if you've ever, like me, for your health, you have read about something called like the 100-mile diet and things like that. The more diverse your diet can be, and especially if you can eat foods that were just alive 10 minutes ago, you just pulled it from your garden, guess what? Our gut is healthier. And same thing happens for a worm bin. You give them foods that are still alive. These microbes that will be present and will add to the diversity of this bin will enhance the microbiome of the worm bin, just like in your gut, it enhances the microbiome of our guts. So now, after giving them that, I'm going to give them some very yummy food that has a lot of liquid associated with it. Watermelon. These are watermelon rinds that we ate when Micah was here. And as you can see, there's a lot of juice at the bottom. Now, the nice thing about the tumbleweed system, and Brian Siebert was talking to me in the comments about he uses gardening grow bags for moisture regulation in his systems, because if you overwater, the water just flows straight through. Well, in this stacking system, if you overwater this tray, which I'm going to do as soon as I pour in all this watermelon juice, the moisture goes down from itsy to bitsy to teeny and ultimately to weeny. And in each level, there is more carbon that will swell up. And in the bottom level, more carbon that will swell up. And ultimately, if there's too much, there's an open spigot and it will drain out. So I'm going to put some different carbon on top of here, and then I'm going to pour this yummy watermelon juice on top. So here's some household carbon. Those packing paper, I'll save one of these tissues to wipe my hands at the end. Some packing paper like I talked about. This is the packing that you get around a light bulb. A little bit of corrugated there. So again, some diversity. This type of carbon will grow different microbes yet again. A sprinkle of my cornmeal all around. So that'll help give this carbon, once it gets moist, a bit of a kickstart. Likewise, spent coffee grounds. Bring the worms up here once they go, hey, what's all this about? Now this is faster carbon than those leaves, so it's a good mix. The worms will be able to get into this faster. And finally, some pulverized eggshell for a pH buffer. Cleans my fingers as well, and some grit. To top off this carbon diversity feeding, this is our mostly, well, not mostly, but partly finished compost that we brought from Victoria. Yes, we moved our compost pile. It's an organic pile of compost. Who wouldn't move it? It was only a 5-hour drive. Wasn't so bad. There we go. So there's some, now there's more sticks and stuff in here, but this is microbe diversity for this bin. Worms are going to love it. I'm going to pull this material over. Then we're going to water it with that watermelon juice. Now the bin obviously is not going to drop down in volume when I continue to add such bulky bedding. But you know, the nice thing about this bin is it just keeps rolling. All right, now the watermelon juice. I'm going to pour it over my fingers. Wash my hands off while I go. Now that's a sticky mess, I'm sure. So that's why I saved these tissues. So there you go. Worm farming, not that messy of a hobby. Need a fingernail brush, but other than that, this carbon is now nicely inoculated from wiping it. There's another tissue to get the last few drops off my bracelet and whatnot. So not too shabby. All right, good to see that the banana burrito is well on its way, and the diversity that I've added to this bin, I think, is really going to enhance the processing power of this bin to go through all those different carbon sources, and I'm going to get a healthier castings result. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.